about the not coming over during the war when they almost left Poland.
Oh,
but
yeah, I think that's a unique story.
yeah.
My father left. He left a wife with 3 children. Okay, when he came to America, with, of course, the idea that he was going to send tickets for them to come. And the infant passed. So there were the 2 boys and my mother and her father, Victor. And so Solomon went to work in the United States, and he I guess in quick time, their time, he had enough money to send for the 2 adult tickets and for the 2 children. And he sent tickets to Poland, to Lublin, for these 4 people to leave. Now this is before the First World War, but there's already rumors and, so this is something to celebrate. They all got together, they packed, and they went to the railroad station. They went to the railroad station and they were waiting for the train to come. And the train comes and they say, all aboard, everybody should get on the train. And Victor turns around and he kisses his daughter and his grandchildren and he says, "Geht gesundheit." And he tells them at that point that he is not going to go with them. Why isn't he going with them? Because he knows that in America, even the stones are treif. Right? You want the story with the stone? In order to kosher your silverware, if it somehow or other gets mixed between the milk and the fleshik, in order to kosher it, you have to take a stones, you pour boiling water, you put your silverware in there, and you pour boiling water over the stones and the silver, and there's a required amount of time that it has to stay there, and that's how you kosher your silverware. The expression, even the stones are treif, in America, makes it impossible for you to be a Jew or to be observant. Based on that, he decides he's not going, but he has brought his daughter and his grandchildren to the train station so they can complete their journey. Well, if Victor was somewhat had strong notions of what was right and wrong, Sarah had equal strong feelings about her dad and where her responsibilities were as she saw them, and she never got on that train.
With the 2 boys as well.
With the 2 boys as well. And shortly after that, the First World War blew up, and it couldn't go anywhere. Another sad part of that was that there was some kind of there was a disease of something that passed through the ghetto, and Victor died within a very short time after the decision was made not to go. But the war was on. So Sarah stayed there with her 2 boys until the war was over. And when the war was over, she came to America.
Yeah, and what happened when they saw their father for the first time, right?
Oh, that's a wonderful story. because Sarah came with two boys, and clearly part of their value system was how they presented themselves to the community in the society in which they lived. And it was a carryover when they were prepared to come to America. Okay? And so her children, as she described it, were dressed in the latest fashion when they traveled. They had handmade boots, leather boots, and she was dressed to the nines in the fashion of the day, and people could, as the story went, people couldn't believe that they were refugees from the war because they looked so prosperous. So the children are standing at the rail of the boat, and the Americans who were greeting them are standing at the dock. And the two boys are trapped by this landing procedure. So they're all standing on the deck, and they start laughing, and they're having themselves a time, and they're pointing, and they're laughing because they have no English. And my mother goes over and says, "What is the Gelachter? What is making you laugh so hard?" And they're pointing. What were they pointing at? They were pointing at a man who was somewhat overweight, very well tailored, but clearly had a paunch. And they're laughing and they're pointing. They had never seen anyone. They were war children. They had never seen anyone who had a paunch. They thought this was quite amusing. And my mother looked at her sons and she said, "Lach nicht, mein Kinder, this is dein Tat. Don't laugh, children, that is your father." And that became a very famous story.
Yeah.